You can't experience a single beautiful moment without immediately thinking about how you'll caption it, which angle will get the most engagement, whether the lighting is good enough to post, and in that split second of calculating your content strategy, you missed the actual moment you were trying to capture, turned a genuine experience into performance material, and trained yourself to live life as if you're always on stage even when nobody's watching. Every sunset becomes a photo opportunity. Every meal needs documentation. Every feeling has to be translated into relatable content. And somewhere along the way you stopped asking, "Am I enjoying this?" and started asking, "Will this get likes?" Stopped living for yourself and started living for an audience of people who will scroll past your carefully curated moment in less than 2 seconds while you spent 20 minutes getting the shot just right. You thought sharing your life would make it more meaningful, would create connection, would prove to everyone including yourself that you're living a life worth documenting, but instead it hollowed out your experiences, turned your authenticity into performance, and left you feeling more alone than ever because the version of you that exists online gets more attention than the version of you that exists in real life. And you can't tell anymore which one is real, or if there's anything left of you that isn't being filtered through the lens of how it will look to strangers on the internet. You check your phone within 5 minutes of posting. You feel anxious when the likes come slower than expected. You compare your engagement to everyone else's. You delete posts that don't perform well. You reshoot moments because the first version wasn't aesthetic enough. You've stopped experiencing things without documenting them. You feel invisible when you don't post. You refresh obsessively. You craft captions for hours. You curate your life for consumption. You feel fake but can't stop performing. You measure your worth in notifications. You panic when your content flops. You've made strangers' opinions more important than your own. You can't enjoy anything fully because you're always half removed, watching yourself live instead of actually living. You post your highlights and feel emptier afterward. You know it's hollow, but you're addicted to the validation. You've forgotten what it feels like to do something just because you want to, not because it will make good content. You're performing happiness while feeling nothing. You're so busy curating your life that you forgot to live it. Social media wasn't designed to help you share your life. It was designed to addict you to external validation by hijacking your brain's reward system, training you like a lab rat to associate your self-worth with the unpredictable reinforcement of likes, comments, and shares that come just irregularly enough to keep you hooked, always chasing the next hit of approval from an audience that doesn't actually know you or care about you beyond their own 2-second scroll. You didn't consciously decide to become dependent on strangers' validation. You were conditioned through thousands of micro-rewards that lit up the same neural pathways as gambling, drugs, or any other addiction, teaching your nervous system that your value is determined by engagement metrics rather than internal worth. That experiences only matter if they're witnessed and approved by others, that your authentic self is less important than your curated self because one gets attention and the other gets ignored. The platforms profit from your insecurity, from your constant need to check if you're being seen, if you matter, if you're enough, and they've engineered every feature to maximize that anxiety, from read receipts, to view counts, to follower numbers, to algorithms that show you everyone else's highlight reel, while your own life feels painfully ordinary by comparison. You started posting to connect, to share, to feel less alone, but what you actually did was outsource your self-esteem to an audience that's too distracted by their own performance to genuinely witness yours. And now you're trapped in a cycle where you need the validation to feel real. But getting the validation leaves you feeling emptier. Because deep down you know it's not based on who you actually are. It's based on who you pretended to be for the 3 seconds it took to capture the perfect shot that makes your messy, complicated human life look like something worth double tapping. You're not living your life anymore, you're producing content about living your life. And there's a devastating difference between those two things that you've been trying to ignore, because admitting it means confronting how much of yourself you've sacrificed to maintain an online presence that doesn't even accurately represent who you are or what you actually care about. The moments you don't post are the moments you actually lived, and you have so few of those now because you've trained yourself to evaluate every experience through the filter of whether it's shareable, whether it will get engagement, whether it will make people think you're interesting, successful, happy, or whatever identity you're trying to prove you have to an audience that will forget your post the moment they scroll past it. You've been performing authenticity, which is the most inauthentic thing a person can do. Carefully crafting vulnerability for consumption, staging candid moments, writing captions that seem spontaneous but took an hour to perfect. And the exhaustion you feel isn't from being too active on social media. It's from the constant cognitive dissonance of knowing you're being fake while desperately trying to make the fakeness feel real enough that you can believe it yourself. The people who truly love you don't need to see your life in posts. They see it in person, they know you beyond the highlights. They remember the conversations and the silences and the ordinary moments that never made it to your feed. because they weren't aesthetic enough to document, and the validation you're chasing from strangers is a poor substitute for the genuine connection you're missing because you're too busy curating your image to actually be present with the people who see you as more than content. You don't need more followers, more likes, more comments, more engagement. You need to remember what it feels like to have an experience that's just for you, that doesn't get documented, analyzed or optimized for algorithm performance, that exists only in your memory and the memories of the people who were actually there with you, fully present, not performing for an invisible audience. You can start reclaiming your life right now by making a simple, radical choice. Do something today that you don't document, don't share, don't turn into content, something that exists only for you and the people you're with. And notice how different it feels when you're not splitting your attention between experiencing the moment and calculating how to present it to others. Delete the apps from your phone for just 24 hours and see what happens to your nervous system when it's not constantly seeking validation, when you're not compulsively checking to see if you matter to people who don't actually know you, when you can walk through your day without the background anxiety of needing to perform your existence for an audience. Start treating your phone like a tool instead of an extension of your identity. Checking it at designated times instead of every time you feel uncertain, bored, or in need of the dopamine hit that comes from seeing that someone, anyone, acknowledged your existence through a meaningless double tap. Build one real relationship that exists entirely offline, where you show up messy and unfiltered and don't have to worry about how you're being perceived, because the person knows you beyond your carefully curated highlights. Where silence is comfortable and you don't have to perform being interesting, because your value to each other isn't based on entertainment or aesthetic appeal. The freedom you're looking for isn't in going viral or building a massive following or finally creating content that gets the engagement you crave. The freedom is in remembering that you existed before social media, that you had worth before anyone liked your posts, that your life is happening in the spaces between the content you create, and if you never capture another moment, never post another update, never share another carefully filtered piece of your existence, you'll still be exactly as valuable as you were when you thought validation from strangers was the thing that would finally make you feel enough. You've been posting your life instead of living it, performing for an audience that doesn't know you, chasing validation from people who will never see past your curated surface. And somewhere in all that documentation, you forgot that the best moments of your life weren't the ones you shared. They were the ones you kept for yourself, the ones that existed in real time without a caption, without a filter, without the pressure to make them look better than they felt. The person you are when you're not creating content is the person worth knowing. The unfiltered version that doesn't need perfect lighting or clever captions to justify existing. And that person has been drowning under the weight of maintaining an online presence that requires constant performance, constant curation, constant comparison to everyone else who's also pretending their life is better than it is. You can put the phone down right now, you can let moments happen without documenting them, you can exist without an audience, and the terrifying freedom in that is realizing that you are enough without the likes, without the followers, without the engagement metrics that you've been using as proof that your life has value. When the truth is, your life has always had value. You just forgot how to measure it by anything other than how many strangers approve of the version of yourself you've been performing for them. The world doesn't need more of your content. It needs more of your presence, the kind that can't be captured in a post. The kind that shows up fully in moments that will never make it to anyone's feed, the kind that builds real connections instead of collecting followers, the kind that experiences things deeply instead of documenting them shallowly. Stop living for the screenshot. Stop measuring moments by their shareability. Stop letting your phone be the mediator between you and your actual life, because every second you spend crafting the perfect post is a second you're not spending living the imperfect reality that's unfolding right in front of you. And nobody on their deathbed ever wished they'd posted more. They wished they'd lived more, felt more connected, more experienced, more without the barrier of a screen between them and everything that matters. Post less, live more isn't just advice. It's permission to finally stop performing to reclaim your attention from the algorithm that's been farming it, to remember what it feels like to be enough without needing anyone's approval. And the moment you truly internalize that is the moment you're finally free from the prison you built, trying to prove your worth to people who were never actually paying attention anyway. Stay.